Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Munir Al-Azouzi from easymedicaldevice.com. And today we will not talk about MDR, but we will talk about IVDR. Anyway, we'll talk a bit of MDR because we'll mention some elements of it here. And I have with me Hakan Inan, which is the CEO and Managing Director of Requalite in Germany. So Hakan, welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast.
Hello, Munir. Thanks for having me. Glad that I am joining you today.
Great. So really thank you for joining. Mainly what we'll talk about is about IVDR, and we'll talk about specifically the performance evaluation, which can be, if I can say, comparable with the MDR to the clinical evaluation. And we'll talk more about that. But before that, so Hakan, can you please make a small introduction of yourself and so that we know better about you?
Yes, sure, Munir. After I lost my father to cancer at an early age, so I decided to perform research and studies in the field of cancer. Actually, this was my inspiration to go to the higher education. And then, so I started doing my higher education. I initially did my master's in the field of nanotechnology and then PhD in the field of nanotechnology again. And then I started to work in the cancer field, which was my target from the beginning. So I joined Stanford Medicine Canary Cancer Early Detection Center as a PhD researcher. And after I finished my PhD, then I continued my research there as a postdoc. And then recently I moved to Germany to LMU Munich as a scientist. I worked there. And mainly my research is in the field of cancer, but I always worked in the in-vitro diagnostic device developments, assays and techniques and technology developments for cancer, oncology, immunology, and hematology applications. And then after spending a good amount of time in academia, I decided to move into industry where I can really utilize my experience and background. And I'm happy that I did that. So, and I formed my company in regulatory and quality consulting. And since then, I have been working in regulatory affairs, basically in vitro diagnostic fields, in performance and clinical evaluation part.
No, I think it's great. So I imagine that the move from academy to industry is really a big change. You see a complete difference or a complete change in terms of mentality because it's completely not the same.
Yeah, it is. It is, in fact, in academia, so you take your time, you do fundamental research, but it takes longer time. But the industry is fast moving. And, so you really translate your research into a product. So I think this is the main difference between these two, but I enjoy doing both anyway.
Yeah. I was working with some scientists and they wanted every time that everything is perfect before to finalize that. When the industry says, no, I don't want to be perfect. I just want to sell something. So give me something to sell and we can make it perfect later. So it's not like that. So it's also the difference I see a lot with the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
But so as you've said, so mainly IVD is your, if I can say, you are focusing on that. As I've said today, we'll try really to help more people about in vitro diagnostic. We were talking on this podcast a lot about MDR because, if I can say, there was more urgency on that. But now I feel that there is also a lot of urgency on IVDR. So as you are more working on the IVD part, if I can say, what is your feeling now about the IVDR, the situation and the context for the manufacturers? Do you have more manufacturers that comes to you for getting help, or?
Yeah, definitely, Munir. This is the trend that we can see. The manufacturers are, I think, after MDR is established now, the deadline is now, I think we are around just a month or so away from the MDR application. And now companies have got a good idea and good feeling about MDR. And now people are moving into IVDR sector. So that I can definitely see from the industry that now we are getting more and more customers and more and more inquiries are coming through. So people wanted to know what is IVDR and what is IVDR offering exactly. And since everything has changed from the scratch, so this have made it a little bit complicated for the manufacturers, to be honest. And now manufacturers are exploring the compliance requirements. And now we definitely see that there is this trend going in IVDR as well. And we are in the last year now. And so although MDR was postponed for 1 year during this COVID situation, at the moment there is no news. So I think more we as IVDR's regulatory industry, I think we should really focus on the deadline, which is next year. So this is the general situation now.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the difficulty, and I discussed that on the podcast two episodes ago. If I can say to discuss about that, to say that just one rule, the change of classification of the product, made it changed completely the game. If I can say of those manufacturers, because before they were, if I can say, self-certified, so they doesn't need a notified body, and now more three quarter, if I can say, need a notified body.
Yeah.
But we have actually, as of today, only 4 notified bodies for them, which is ridiculous. So
Yeah, Munir, this is very interesting. Actually, the other day I was doing some calculations, So I just, as you know, Nando website is continuously updating the list of the accredited notified bodies. And we know that the new regulation have stringent rules for the notified bodies as well, actually. It puts lots of efforts, lots of regulations on them as well. So for IVD, for the directives, there were already registered 18 notified bodies. And now, as of today, 7th of April 2021, there is only 4 accredited notified bodies, and the first evaluation has been done only on 11 notified bodies.
Yeah. So less than the number of notified body under MDD, and IVDD.
Yeah. So at least we expect 1/3 of the notified bodies will not seek the new accreditation. So we will lose the, industry will lose this power. This is one thing. But the main bottleneck, as you said, is the device perspective. Now, actually, I was just checking, and I wanted to know how many IVD devices are there actually in European market.
Yeah.
And I could come up roughly with around 50,000 devices.
Okay.
So 50,000 devices. And now we know that around 85 to 90% of these devices will go through the notified body assessment, conformity assessment process. So we are looking at around 40 to 45,000 devices that needs to be taken care in a couple of years. And we hardly have now, if all the notified bodies are accredited, which are now 14, and so you can just imagine, so for every notified bodies, we will have around 3,000 in vitro diagnostic devices.
Yeah.
Only for in vitro diagnostic, on top of the medical device, of course.
Yeah, because we have notified bodies that do both also, that do MDR and IVDR. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can imagine the workload that will, the main bottleneck that I see for the industry is the capacity of the notified bodies. So that's definitely is a limiting factor for the industry at the moment.
So I hope medical device manufacturers or IVD manufacturers hear the message, and first they are really prioritizing, if I can say, their transition to the IVDR, and second that they are rushing to contact a notified body because there are only 4. So I hope they have capacity to help you. But
that's true.
I don't know if they can make it. To be honest, it's also the question: can they make it? Is another answer. We'll maybe have to have a notified body to tell us if they have enough capacity for that. But it will be a challenge, I think, and I hope we'll succeed, because if we cannot certify some of those products, then we'll have some disruption on the market, and then it will be a bit difficult for everybody then.
Yeah, exactly, Münir. And also, let's keep in mind that the content of the regulation has also expanded.
Yeah.
So, I mean, earlier we had directive, and as you remember, when you compare directive to actually to the regulation, so now we have almost 5 times more content in IVDR, and the reporting and evaluation reporting and performance evaluation reporting is also more strict. And so actually this is also adding on the work that needs to be done, the confirmatory process that needs to be done. So everything when comes together, actually we are heading towards a perfect storm, if I may say, as industry. But I think we have now in last 1 year, and so we have to work together to make it happen.
Yeah, so let's now help people to understand more about this. One of the requirements for those devices, those in vitro diagnostic devices, so which is performance evaluation. So if you had to summarize, if I can say, what is the performance evaluation, how would you say? How would you tell that to anybody then?
Yeah, Munir, actually, when you look at the, let's give some background information first.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the regulation, the performance evaluation as a term have been mentioned in 121 times in the regulation.
Okay.
And actually, when you compare this to the clinical evaluation, it's almost very comparable to clinical evaluation in MDR. So we can see that the emphasis, the philosophy of the lawmaker is actually on the performance evaluation as a term. Now, there is this article number 2 in IVDR, which gives you the definition of different terms. There, performance evaluation has been described as the assessment and the analysis of the data to establish or to verify scientific validity, analytical performance, and clinical performance of the device. So this is the official by law definition of the performance evaluation. And but we also have new terms. Actually, it's not only performance evaluation. Now, as you have realized, I have also mentioned 3 different terms now.
Yeah.
Analytical performance, clinical performance, and on top of that, scientific validity. So, and maybe we will discuss each of them while we proceed. And on top of that, there is also this term that has been mentioned in the regulation, which is called as clinical evidence.
Yeah. So we have performance evaluation, and we talk about clinical evidence inside. So what is the link
exactly
here?
So how do we link it? So actually, the outcome of performance evaluation, the assessment that is derived from the performance evaluation plus clinical data comes together and form the clinical evidence. And clinical evidence should be sufficient in amount and should have good quality that allows a qualified assessment by notified bodies, of course. When we are
saying performance evaluation, so mainly we are talking about the performance of the in vitro diagnostic methodology that we are, and for example, one methodology is to, for example, let's say, to evaluate your blood group, if I can say, the blood rhesus. So to say your blood rhesus is O plus, O minus, etc., etc. And the clinical evidence is to verify that the result was correct with the patient, to verify clinically on the patient that this is correct. So how do you do that? So do you give some blood and try to see if there is no side effects, or what's the point here?
Actually, so this is a little bit complicated here, and the terms are confused a little bit when we because we also have this clinical performance.
Yeah.
What you have just described, actually, I mean, like, just imagine from the perspective of a manufacturer. You develop a device. You have an intended purpose as a manufacturer.
Yeah.
Actually, everything is decided according to the intended purpose. What is the intended purpose of this device? Which is described and decided by the manufacturer, of course. So there, as you know, in vitro diagnostic is a test methodology or a technique that functions with the samples and specimens obtained from the human body,
exactly,
such as blood, urine, saliva, so on and so forth, or tissue or cells. But the test is done outside of human body. In vitro actually means tube. The test done in the tube. So now there are different stages then. If you are a manufacturer, first of all, you have to associate scientifically that the clinical condition that you are measuring is really linked to the analyte that you are measuring. Because now you are using an analyte. Let's give you an example. So let's say that you are a glucometer company, that you want to produce a glucometer. You want to measure the glucose. Now, the analyte that you are targeting is glucose.
Yeah.
Specimen you have is the blood that you get from human. And the clinical condition that you are measuring is diabetes. So that link between analyte to the disease is called as scientific validity, actually.
Okay.
So this is how you have to scientifically validate that there is a link and association, scientifically proven link and association between the analyte and the clinical condition. This is first step. And then you have to report this as a scientific validity report.
Okay.
And this is mentioned actually in the regulation. So this is first part. And secondly, now you have established your connection. Next step is that you have to see whether your device is working properly or not.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you have proper performance characteristics. And actually, in the GSPRS and Annex 1 is talking about general safety and performance requirements. As you know, there is this clause number 9.
Yeah, exactly.
In clause 9.1a and b, you can the regulation describes which parameters you have to see to provide analytical performance characteristics. And some of these characteristics are well known in industry, like sensitivity, specificity, limit of detection, and linear range, the cutoff, limit of detection. So all these parameters are supposed to be provided by the manufacturer, mostly during the development of the device. So this is your analytical performance. So you have to see whether your device is really functioning with that analyte that you have just proven, whether the device is functioning, and whether performance characteristics are proven.
Okay.
So this is the second stage. And this goes into your analytical performance report.
Okay.
And the third step, now you have scientifically validate, and you also proven that analytically your device is working well. At that stage, you don't need to work with the patients because you just wanted to know whether the device is working good or not.
Yeah.
But then the next step is that you have to show that device is actually functioning in diabetes patients.
Okay.
So there you have to find the clinical data. There, the clinical performance comes into the picture, and there, the real world, actual world data, where your device is used in clinical settings as intended. So this constitutes your clinical performance and goes into clinical performance report.
Okay.
So, and
so are you getting many patients? Like you have to define a certain amount of samples to prove that your clinical performance is correct and everything, like the same that we are doing when we are, for example, doing a clinical investigation?
That depends, Munir. So if you really, a little bit, of course, depends on the classification of your device.
Okay.
Because as the classification, as the risk of the device increases, so that the amount of, remember that data that I have mentioned, clinical evidence I mentioned, sufficient amount, good quality data.
Yeah.
So as your risk class increases, so the amount of data you need to provide is also increases.
Okay.
So you need to provide more data. But we also need to understand that in vitro diagnostic devices are not functioning directly with the patients.
Yeah.
So most of the times we can mitigate those data when our devices is used in actual world. And so if device is a well-established device, so we can get this data. And we use the literature search especially as a very powerful tool in scientific validity and analytical performance, and as well as in clinical performance. And of course, we also have the data that comes up from the similar devices.
Yeah,
so
true.
all these things come together, and then they form the performance evaluation report in combination with the PMS and some risk and safety. Of course, the performance evaluation report combines everything. So your performance characteristic, your clinical data, as well as performance post-market surveillance, and if you have any risk and so that has been described. So you combine all this information in your performance evaluation report.
Okay, I think you've said something interesting, which is like you can use similar products.
Similar devices.
So is it the same as for medical device regulation? Like to say, if I find a similar device, I have first to confirm that it's really the same with the characteristics, and then I can use the data of this device to prove that my device is correct.
Yeah, mitigation of this data definitely is a way, is a method. But keep in mind, Münir, we always have to first focus on our device.
Yeah.
And we have to really exhaust all the possibilities of information resources. But similar devices are powerful because are important because we are using them to also establish our state of the art.
Okay.
Because there is a background information in technology and medicine that we have to provide during the performance evaluation. And similar devices also constitute a part of state of the art.
Yeah.
But how much we can mitigate those data to claim performance characteristics if we have some gaps in our clinical, let's say in our clinical performance, and how much of those data can be used is very, very device dependent and class dependent. So there is no if I can say, there is no direct, very well established methodology that tells us that for this device and for this methodology, you can use similar devices. Similar devices are important, but not enough.
Yeah. We have, with the MDR, the MDCG group issued a guidance to define how you are evaluating a similarity of devices. I don't think they have done anything for IVDR in that way.
Yeah, Münir, this is another problem that we are facing. So medical device coordination group is generally, at the moment now, they generally worked on the notified body.
I didn't see a lot on the planning about IVDR. I didn't see a lot of the planning.
For IVDR as of now, there is recently, in last November, December, there was this classification document.
Yeah, I saw that.
They have endorsed it. And also one on the performance evaluation in terms of MDR and IVDR in terms of software as a medical device.
Exactly. So I have made a LinkedIn Live about that. We have made that with Cesare Magri, and we talked about this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So apart from that, actually, there is not much on in-vitro diagnostic. And when you look at the rolling plan, the documents under consideration on medical device coordination group, and we see that there is a performance evaluation document there.
Template.
And yeah, there is a performance evaluation document which is under consideration, and the MDCG describes that the comments have been received from the stakeholders. So that means that there is some progress there, and I do expect that in 2021, probably in this quarter, that we should get at least a document that tells us how to perform the performance evaluation.
And did you have that on the IVDD? So did you have the guidance? Because we had, for example, for the CER, we had the MedDev 2.71 revision 4. So do you have a similar document for IVDD?
No, not really. I mean, like the documents that we rely for performance evaluation, as of now, there are 4 main documents, if I may say. One is MedDev 2.71 revision 4, which is basically for medical devices.
Yeah.
And also, just keep in mind, Munir, this was for directive during the it was published in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, and it is as per the directive.
Yeah.
But still, I think that's the gold standard that at least gives us information about how to perform certain parameters, like how to demonstrate scientific validity, and how to perform the literature search. Because literature search needs to be methodological, and protocols has to be provided. You know, we have to follow certain protocol, certain methodology, and this has been well described in MedDev.
Yeah.
And secondly, as you know, there is this Global Harmonization Task Force,
yeah,
which is GHTF, which is now IMDRF, International Medical Device Regulatory Forum. And there are 3 documents for IMDRF. Under working group 5. So there is document number 6, 7, and 8, which describes what are the parameters that we need to follow for performance evaluation, scientific validity, clinical evidence for the in vitro diagnostic devices.
Now, I think it's good to mention that, because the IMDRF is really a group that is creating some guidances, and the European Union also used some of those guidances. For example, for the classification of IVDR products, they use the guidances issued by the IMDRF. So now, yeah, so it's just for people that if you are using the IMDRF guidances, it's not like it's something that is really valid, if I can say, and it's something that you can be confident to be using then.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, when you look at the certain paragraph of classification of certain terms like scientific validity, like definition of state of the art, for instance, it's been directly taken from the IMDRF documents, actually. So especially like recently, there was this MDCG guidelines on state of the art of COVID.
Yeah.
And there, when they describe state of the art, actually they directly, word by word, they've taken this definition from the IMDRF.
Yeah.
So it's obviously these are documents that we need to. I mean, at the moment we don't have anything. So until we get guidance from MDCG, I think these 4 documents are quite important now.
Yeah, I will place them on the show notes so that people can get them and can have a look at them. But I think it's really valuable documents that people have to use.
Exactly.
So I think we have really covered everything about performance evaluation. I hope
Munir here. I'm sorry, I'm just cutting you. One thing I need to mention before we move into the next step. I'm sorry, I just cut you.
No problem.
Now, when you look at the regulation specifically describes 6 reports, Munir.
Okay.
So 5 of them are reports. 1 of them is plan, actually. And in Article 56 in IVDR describes performance evaluation, scientific validity, analytical performance, clinical performance, and what they are and how we need to do it. And then Annex number 13, Part A, gives us the design information. So it gives us the information about performance evaluation plan, because now just imagine we have to plan all these activities. And where do we plan? So we plan all these activities in performance evaluation plan, where we give our information about our device, intended purpose, specifications, similar devices, state of the art. And then we describe how we're gonna perform the literature search, what parameters we're gonna use, what filters we're gonna use. and how we're going to assess those literature outcomes. How do we do scientific validity report, analytical performance, clinical performance? So this gives us this sets the tone for the rest of the reports. And then 3 reports that I have mentioned: scientific validity, analytical performance, clinical performance, plus all these things come together. They go into performance evaluation report. But specifically, the regulation also mentioned the literature search report in Annex 13. So then that means that we have to have 5 reports and 1 plan that goes into performance evaluation. So of course, we don't talk about the post-market part, because we also have PMPF actually. So you know that there is an interplay between performance evaluation and post-market performance follow-up.
Exactly. So can we say that it's really more difficult to do it now than to do it before with the IVDD?
That's definitely. I mean, I could definitely say that. Actually, it's more complex. And the problem is that there are no guidelines, no approved common specification harmonized standards. And there is also, I mean, experience-wise, I mean, we don't also have too much feedback from the notified bodies, because it's not been done yet. And I mean, as the process goes on,
they are also learning. I think the notified bodies are also learning, because they are not expert of that. They are learning like us.
Exactly. And some of these parameters like sensitivity, specificity, limit of detection, quantitation, area under the curve, ROC curve, you know, and positive predictive value, negative predictive value, odd ratio, all these things are new to the, they are there. Scientific community already knows them, but they are new to the regulation. So I think this will take time until we establish a environment for everybody. You know,
no, I think it's correct, and I mean, we should be patient with notified bodies. Also, we should be patient with manufacturers. So there will be a lot of interpretation or misinterpretation, if I can say, of the regulation. So it's something that we will see. I mean, we are already seeing that with the MDR. With some of my customers, we are seeing that. So I'm sure we'll see exactly the same thing with IVDR. So just maybe to transition to this, because I think this means also that manufacturers will need a lot of support from some companies that can help them for that. So Requalite, what it is exactly? What are you doing? What are you offering? How can you help, if I can say, people maybe that are on the audience now that are listening and I say, okay, I need some support for my maybe post-performance evaluation report. So what kind of service you can provide to them?
Yeah, sure, Munir. So Requalite is a medical device compliance consulting company. Here we are located at Germany, here in Munich. But we focus on, within the regulatory domain, we focus specifically on medical writing on performance evaluation and clinical evaluation reports. So, and our expertise lies there, and we really would like to use that. And so we can help the manufacturers to during their compliance procedure. So with all these reports that I have just mentioned, with all these 5 reports, 1 plan, as well as post-market performance follow-up plans and reports. So we have a strong team of scientists, all are having their PhDs in immunology, hematology, oncology, neurology, cardiovascular diseases. So because, you know, these reports really need to have a trained eye, because it really requires expertise in details. Yeah. So we really have this strong team. We can provide all this, and especially like my background, my research background, and you know, all my research and academia since now in industry is completely on in vitro diagnostic device development. So we have a good understanding of regulation and its requirement. So we can definitely help manufacturers during the compliance and conformity assessment process.
Great. So thank you for that. And so people, if you really need a performance evaluation report, I think from listening to what Hakan has said for all these explanation, all this his talk today. So I think he's really a specialist, and his team is also a specialist on that. So please don't hesitate to contact Hakan if there is any question about performance evaluation reports, to write them. I think he has a team of great people, so don't hesitate to contact him directly. Where people can follow up with you? Do you have a website or something that people can maybe go to?
Yeah. Sure. We have our website, www.requality.com. This is our website, but I am also very active in LinkedIn. We also have our LinkedIn page. So maybe I'll just provide you our company details. Actually, we also have a service brochure. Maybe I can provide you this, where
send that
people
to me,
can see what are the services that we provide and where people can reach us.
No problem. So send that to me, or I will put, or send me a link where you can find it, and then I can put that on the show notes.
Sure.
No problem. So just for people, Requalite is REQUALITE, not Y at the end. So because we have Requality at the end with a Y, but at the end it's E. So just for people that are just listening and they are not seeing the video. So I will put that also on the video, but don't hesitate to go on the show notes. I will put the links and everything so that people can directly go to that. Okay, so really thank you then, Hakan, for that, and I hope really that people will be contacting you for getting some support, because I'm sure that there will be a lot of need for that. Okay, so everybody, so thank you for listening for this episode. So thank you for all your support. Don't hesitate to go on the show notes, as I said, to get all the links. I will try to place all the links that we discussed about today. Don't hesitate also to go on YouTube if you like this episode, to put a like, to put also comments. Any question that you will ask, I will try to send that to Hakan so that he can answer to you. I will also place his information about LinkedIn so that you can contact him directly on LinkedIn. So ask your question directly to him.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Hakan, really thank you for your help. Thank you for your support on all this, and I wish you a nice day.
It was wonderful talking to you, Munir. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your invitation. So I was happy to be joining you, and I'm glad that we talked.
Great. Thank you for that. Have a good day then.